a stay-at-home dad, watching Disney movies he never had. His daughter digs through all the VHS, crushing the classics in a princess dress. Informed like Scuttle, Kurt's got your ticket, making it real like Jiminy Cricket. Most are off the Captain Hook, but if the Tweedledum, he'll be taking more shots than Bambi's mom. Leaves him raised like Simba, or cracked like the beast dishes. He'll show you a whole new world, you won't need 3 wishes. Stay at home, Disney Dad.
Buckle up for this one. VHS cover says Walt Disney Studios presents a Studio Ghibli film, Miyazaki's Spirited Away. I am not watching this one with my daughter. In a fun twist of events, I'm watching this one with my teenage son. We make sure my daughter is fast asleep and we press play. Ad for Atlantis 2 and Stitch the movie. Ad for Bionicle, Mask of Light. Gonna skip that one. Ad for Castle in the Sky. Man, they keep coming. Ads for Kiki's Delivery Service. I've come to understand that the movies Disney think are gonna be hits are usually the ones with a million ads before them, so that's already a good sign. Feature presentation, sad girl in the back of the family car. The family is moving, quote, I finally get a bouquet, and it's a goodbye present, she says sadly to herself. Her parents tell her it's fun to move to a new place. It's an adventure. On the way to their new house, the kid, whose name is Chihiro, sees a bunch of tiny stone houses in the forest, and mom says, people say spirits live in there. Shudder. Dad is a crazy person, starts speeding through the dirt road in the forest. They find a fake building with a walking trail right through it. Dad wants to explore. Chihiro refuses to go and waits by the car as mom and dad call her bluff and leave, and they go off on their own. She freaks out about being left alone and chases after them through this house. They're inside like an empty church and they hear a train. There's a bunch of weird stones that look like gremlins. They realize they are in an abandoned theme park when they come out the other side. The building moans and the kid freaks out, and if this were a horror movie, the parents would be about to die. They continue to explore the abandoned theme park because they smell food. They find this full spread and no employees, so the parents just sit down and help themselves. Chihiro's parents are gluttonous and mean and ignore her pleas for them to stop filling their faces and get the hell out of there. Chihiro bounces and finds a shrine in a giant building that's billowing smoke. It's a bathhouse, and a train comes along. Some dude shows up and is like, what are you doing here? You gotta get out of here before it gets dark. Run, I'll distract them. Okay, she runs back to her mom and dad, and they have turned into pigs. They are pig people. And some person starts whipping them. Starts whipping the pig parents' people. The dark spirits surround Chihiro, and she screams for her mom. This is the greatest movie I've ever seen. Chihiro starts pounding her head and screaming, it's just a dream, as a riverboat approaches and a bunch of like ghosts or monsters get off. Like they get off the boat. It's not that great of a movie yet. Chihiro curls up into a ball, and that boy that told her to run comes back and is like, you have to eat this or you'll disappear. Girl, she does eat it. To be fair, Chihiro was starting to fade, but she rematerializes after she eats whatever the boy gave her. There's a bird with an old lady's head that's looking for them. The angles the animators are using in this movie are amazing. They're crossing a bridge with all the spirits or those monsters, and he tells her she needs to hold her breath as they cross the bridge or she will be exposed as a human, and they don't want that. They pass one of those like iconic nun ghost things, the only thing I recognize from this movie, that thing. She gets within a foot of the end of the bridge and she can't hold her breath any longer and inhales. Everyone goes all King Triton about a human being there, and they have to run and she has to hide. He tells her he will cause a distraction, and when he does, she has to run down this hill to a boiler room and find Kamoji the Broiler Man, and she has to convince him he has to give her a job, and that's the only way Yubaba the witch won't be able to touch her. What the actual? You got that? In the broiler room, there's a parade of spiders tossing coal into a broiler, and there's a man with many arms working on the machine. She begs this guy for a job. He says no and continues working. The spiders start to struggle with the bigger pieces of coal, so she picks it up and tosses it into the broiler herself. All the spiders now pretend to struggle with their coal, so she has to do all the work. This mirrors real live workplaces. Suddenly, some normal woman comes out and delivers food to the many-armed man and the spiders, and she sees the girl and she's like, "A human? You're in trouble." Many-Arms decides he dislikes this woman more than the little human girl and lies and says, "This is my granddaughter." Forget Spirited Away. This is honestly the spirit of every workplace. Who do I hate more? Many-Arms says if she wants to work here, she has to clear it with Yubaba, and the woman sasses the child. She's now taking Chihiro to Yubaba. This woman's character's voice sounds really familiar. They run into a radish spirit. Horrifying. Lynn is the woman's name, and some frog guy's like, "You smell like human," to Lynn, and she sends the girl and the radish spirit alone up in the elevator as she distracts the frog thing. The radish spirit lets her off on the top floor. Chihiro touches the doorknob and it comes to life like Jacob Marley and calls her pathetic. She comes inside and the witch makes her like soar through the air like she conjures the wind, and Chihiro lands on the carpet. She's surrounded by these 3 green heads. Is this really worth getting your parents back for, lady? She tells the witch she needs a job, and the witch says that's a stupid request. She says this bathhouse is for the spirits, and her parents were garbage, and they got what they deserved when they got turned into pigs. Chihiro demands a job, and the witch gets super mad at her. Then a giant baby tries to break in the room. Chihiro is awesome. She's belligerent and is screaming, "I'm not leaving until you give me a job." A contract floats to her. The witch tells her she can sign it and she can work, but if she complains, she will be in the pig pen with her parents. And from now on, her name is Sen. Suddenly, that boy is back. The witch is like, "Show her the ropes," and he pretends he doesn't know Chihiro. He takes her to the main room and back. He takes her to the main room and takes her back to Lynn and's like, "This is your assistant." Lynn sounds like Meg from Hercules. Now, Lynn is suddenly nice to Chihiro or Sen. Chihiro is like, "I don't feel so good," and Lynn tells her not to trust that boy she was with, and she starts crying. The witch turns into a bird and flies away when the sun comes up. The boy comes in and tells her to meet him at the bridge and he will take her to her parents, but she's not supposed to trust him. She walks back out to the broiler room where she left her shoes, and they're gone, but then the spiders scuttle out of their little holes and bring her shoes, and she waves goodbye. That ghost nun thing is still on the bridge. The boy meets her there, and they run through the cherry blossom trees. He tells her he must never come here without him. He takes her to the pig pen. Her mom and dad are pigs, and they're sleeping, and they don't remember her or the fact that they used to be her human parents. It's up to Chihiro to remember which pigs are her parents. That's foreshadowing. He gives Sen her original clothes back with a card on her name on it. She reads it and remembers her original name. It's not Sen, it's Chihiro, and that's how Yubaba controls people. She takes their names. He gives her more food to eat. She eats and cries. Haku is the boy's name. He turns into a dragon and flies away. Then the ghost nun thing smiles and walks away. Broiler Man wakes up and finds Chihiro asleep on his floor, and he puts a blanket over her. So sad. It's night, and the bird witch comes back home. Montage of Chihiro cleaning the bathhouse. She empties some buckets out an open window, and the ghost nun is standing there, and she says, "I'll leave the window open so you can come inside." And it does. I'm sure that's fine. Some sludge monster is seen coming through the range. She's supposed to get some wash tablet or something, and she goes and asks the foreman for her, but he says no because he hates humans. But then that nun thing appears and tosses her some. A stink spirit is coming. That's a thing. That was the sludge monster. No one wants to deal with this gross thing, so Yubaba, the witch, tells the little girl to take this client. The sludge monster, he takes her to the giant tub that she just finished cleaning, and she bathes him. She's fighting through the stink and does her job when everyone is cheering against her, like everyone's watching this. She finds a thorn stuck in the stink spirit, and the witch is like, "That's no stink spirit," and tells everyone to jump in and help Chihiro rip the thorn out. And the whole staff do, and they pull out a bicycle, and all this garbage pours out of the hole. Then, and all that's left is a floating old man head who says, "Well done." Once the water drains, the floor is covered with gold. The spirit was actually huge and flies out, and the witch hugs the little girl and is like, "You did great, and you made us so much money." And she tells the rest of her staff, "Everyone should learn from this little girl." That's a good moment. Later that night, Chihiro is chatting with Lynn, and Lynn warns her again about Haku. Lynn says, "Someday, I'm going to get on that train and get out of this place." Some frog is searching the place for leftover gold, and then that nun spirit appears and drops gold for the frog. The frog is greedy and asks for more, and when he gets close, the thing eats him. And then turns to the next person and says, "Go wake everyone up, 'cause I'm hungry and I got gold." Chihiro wakes up and no one is there anymore. She wanders into the main area and it's chaos. This new client, this nun thing, is giving away gold by the handful. It's eating everything. She finds Haku in dragon form and he's bleeding everywhere, and he flies outside, but then he crashes in the upstairs window. Chihiro is trying to get upstairs to help Haku, but as she passes through the main part, the nun thing is gigantic from eating everything and approaches the girl. He offers her a mountain of gold, and Chihiro doesn't want it. She wants to go upstairs and find Haku. So the monster starts eating the servants now. Chihiro is now at the top floor. That's Yubaba's chamber. The giant baby is under a pile of pillows, and Chihiro hides under there as well. Yubaba sees Haku and says, he's gonna bleed to death. Suddenly, the giant baby goes into like terrifying villain mode, and the baby tells the girl as they're hiding under the covers together that she's gonna make the baby sick. He says that everything makes him sick. That's why he's never allowed to leave the room. He says, play with me or I'll cry and mom will come in and kill you. Then, play with me or I'll break your arm. Inside the room upstairs, there's those three green heads. They're like eating Haku, and the witch Ubaba comes back, but it's not Ubaba, it's Zeniba, Ubaba's twin sister. She wants Haku because he stole her seal from her, and he wants a seal back. Zeniba then kidnaps the giant baby. Haku wakes up and cuts the witch in half and grabs Chihiro and falls down a hole. We get some trippy dream stuff, and Haku snaps back to life and heals himself, and they crash through the ceiling and they land in the Broiler Room. They land on the Broiler Room guy. Haku is still dying. He's bleeding from the inside. She tries to feed him the medicine she got from the river spirit. She makes him swallow it. He swallows it and spits out the witch's golden seal. Haku changes back to a human, but he's still gravely ill, maybe gravelly too. The Broiler Room guy says Haku just showed up like she did one day, and he warned him not to get wrapped up with Ubaba, but he did anyway. The girl wants to return the seal to Ubaba's sister Zeniba to break the spell and help Haku. Everyone in the bathhouse is looking for Chihiro. The monster client nun thing turned out to be a monster called No Face. Awesome. And he's been telling everyone, she invited me in. She's like, yeah, it was me. The Broiler Room man gives her a train ticket, but first she needs to take care of No Face. She walks through the terrified staff and gets sent into a room alone with No Face, who makes these uncomfortable, bubbly, gurgly stomach water noises as it moves, and it is so wonderfully disturbing. She feeds the monster the other half of the river spirit's medicine and starts puking out everything it ate, including the staff members. As it it chases her through the bathhouse, and Lynn is waiting in a tiny boat for Chihiro. She jumps in and the two gals paddle away. She calls to No Face, and it jumps out of the bathhouse, and Chihiro claims it was the bathhouse that made it crazy, and it'll be fine once it leaves. They paddle to a shore, and Chihiro runs to the train tracks. No Face is following her. He's back to normal. And the conductor lets No Face on the train as well. There's so much just sadness in this movie. It's overwhelming sometimes, and beautiful at the same time. I have never seen a movie with a tone like this before. Back in the boathouse, Haku wakes up. Ubaba wants to find Chihiro's pig parents, or she wants to make Chihiro's pig parents into bacon, but Haku stops her. Ubaba then realizes her baby is missing. Haku says he'll get the baby back in exchange for Chihiro's release along with her parents, which says fine, but she wants to give Sen/Chihiro one final test. If the girl fails the test, she gets to keep the girl forever. They get off the train, and a hopping lamppost frees them. It's like the Pixar logo. They find Yubaba's sister Zeniba's house. She gives back the stolen seal. The witch is nice and wants her to call her Granny. No Face and Granny are sewing, and she's like, can we go back and save Haku? They made her a hair tie, and Haku is at the door all majestic and dragony. Zeniba forgives Haku for stealing the seal. She tells No Face to stay with her because she could use a helper, so No Face stays, and Chihiro and Haku head back. She keeps having flashbacks about being underwater. She remembers almost drowning and that Haku saved her, and she remembers his real name. She says it, and the dragon's skin falls away, and his name is Haku River, and he was the one that saved her all those years ago when she almost drowned. Those were the flashbacks. The pair return to the bathhouse, and they bring the baby back. Haku says, now remember your promise. Now Ubaba wants to give Sen one final test. The baby says, if you make Sen cry, I won't like you, to his mom. The final test is that she has to look over all these pigs and decide which are her mother and father. She looks around and says, none of them are. And that was the correct answer. And just like that, her parents woke up on the other side of that house, on the other side of the river. She says goodbye to Haku and runs the way back she came. Her parents are back by the initial plastic house. Chihiro wants to look back, but promised not to do so, so she doesn't. They get back into the car, but it's dusty and covered in leaves like it's been there for months. This confuses them, but they ignore it and get in and drive away. Her parents tell her, hey, a new home and a new school can be a bit scary. She says, yeah, I think I can handle it. Wow. This was a great movie. A terrible Disney movie, but a great movie, if that makes sense. How? Why? What? Help me understand, internet. Wikipedia says, Miyazaki wrote the screenplay after he decided the film would be based on the 10-year-old daughter of his friend Seiji Okuda, the film's associate producer who came to visit his house each summer. At the time, Miyazaki was developing 2 personal projects, but they were rejected. With a budget of $19 million US, production of Spirited Away began in 2000. Pixar animator John Lasseter, a fan and friend, convinced Walt Disney Pictures to buy the film's North American distribution rights and served as an executive producer of its English-dubbed version. Originally released in Japan on July 20th, 2001, the film received universal acclaim, grossing $395.8 million at the worldwide box office. Accordingly, it became the most successful and highest-grossing film in Japanese history with a total of $3168 billion. Okay, Spirited Away is often listed among the greatest films of all time and won the Academy Award for Best Animated Feature at the 75th Academy Awards, making it the first and to date only hand-drawn and non-English language animated film to win the award. In 2016, it was voted the 4th best film of the 21st century by the BBC, as picked by 177 film critics from around the world, making it the highest-ranking animated film on the list. In 2017, it was also named the 2nd best film of the 21st century so far by the New York Times. In 2022, it was ranked as the 75th greatest film of all time by the Sight and Sound Critics Poll.
That's what I think about.
What do you think?
What we have is a concern about Curtis Anderson. His interviewing style is not the best. His personal appearance is not the best. I was wondering if the man has some kind of a hold over the channel that he's allowed to be employed for so long with the standards of journalism and personal appearance that he has. Thank you.